So recently I helped a friend offload a bunch of stuff before moving, sort of the scraps of what couldn't easily be sold or given away. It's a bunch of stuff that's up my alley, so I'm going to go through an inventory and see what we have here. Go off the top of the pile. That looks like an adhesive kit for a 21-inch iMac, like a 2012 to 2020. Rack mount kit for something here. Standard power cable. This is interesting. This looks like power adapter for an original iPod, which, yep, that's an Apple iPod power adapter. There's that FireWire cable that has Apple's insignia and semi-translucent era, just the tail end of it. So there's this translucent bit and also the newer style ice white. This looks like a SCSI cable, labeled as such, a G4 Tiebook battery, 2001, 2002, 15-inch power book. Any charge on it? Unsurprisingly, no. It may take charge, so we'll set that out later. And a PowerBook charger. Looks like this is sort of the transition era between the sort of round UFO style ones, actually, like they're back here. And it has just a 2-prong pigtail adapter. But this silver housing quickly turned into a white housing with the era of ice books. So that would be a later Tiebook, probably. Looks like just a replacement or generic power adapter. 5 volts, 2.4 amps, and a barrel jack. Let's see a couple of these here. Looks like all of these are IDE or AT-API cables, similar to or maybe precisely for PowerMac G4 with screws to probably install hard drives. A number of 3.5 volt, good in 2013. You can test those later. Miscellaneous computer cables. Looks like just a SATA cable here, a very short IDE cable, and it looks like 2 LEDs, maybe for external hard drives or for internal hard drives routed to the front of the case on older systems. This little board here is interesting. Got 2 FireWire ports. And is that IDE? ID311G. Not getting any hits for the ID311G, but I can look up this part here, which is Oxford Semiconductor OXFW911-TQ-A. So this is its family, OXFW900, 1394 to ATA native bridge. That's interesting. So this guy can plug into just an IDE connector and provide, probably through some driver support and FireWire interface. Interesting. Haven't seen one of these before. 5¼ inch floppy to an internal header for an older PCAT style computer, probably. Let's see what's in here. Got the lay size. Oh, okay, so more unused 3.5 volt batteries. I'd be interested to see if those still hold a charge. They're still sealed. Looks like 8-pin serial adapter for old Macintosh systems. Never opened Maxell 3.6 volt. The Apple PlaneTalk 2 microphone, I believe this is. Pretty standard fare for late 90s PowerPC. Shipping kit, Mac Mini, Mac OS 10.4.5. Let's see what's in here. Looks like a lot of memory. 30-pin SIM. What is that? And VRAM 8500, and it's bad apparently. Set of 4 30-pin memory, 32 megabyte 168-pin. Oh, that doesn't look like that's what that is. That looks like another VRAM package for that 8500, 8600, 7500, I believe also. More 8-bit memory. Set of 4 8-bits. That's a 72-pin SIM. Maybe 4 megabytes crossed out and written there. It's like SDRAM, 32, 64, and I'm not sure. 1 megabyte 30-pin SIM, another set of 4. And Apple Newton 2 megabyte flash storage card. Interesting. This memory I will test and end up putting in with my regular memory storage. In this package, we've got 2 more 30-pin SIMs. Longer ones here. D41256C, D27512, looks like a programmable ROM. M5L 27512K, that one's empty. D41256, M5L 27512K, M5L 27512K, MT4264. Okay, interesting stuff there. Looks like the other half of that set of 30 pins as well. Certainly great for burning 512K ROMs. Might make use of those individual memory packages to repair other Sims if I ever have to. Another little IDE cable probably there. Another set of 4 30-pin Sims. Set of at least 4 72 pins. More memory here. Set of 4 72 pin. 1 megabyte 30-pin Sims. Another 3-headed IDE cable. This is interesting. This is a FR1SX Firewire adapter with a 50-pin adapter. So this will get you a full SCSI interface off of Firewire. And I believe these worked in a more compatible manner with a lot of scanners and other appliances beyond hard disks than the also common at that era USB versions. DE9 to DB25 Radio Shack. Just a serial adapter with a, looks like male adapter on this end here. More batteries. Mostly the 3.6 volt with also a 4.5 volt that we would have found in Performa's Power Max from that 5200 up to the 6400, 6500. More memory here. 72 pin, 72 pin. Bunch of 30s here. More 30s. Looks like Airport Extreme card with its screws. This is an earlier Mac Pro. One of the easiest tells. First and second gen Mac Pro versus a third gen 2008 Mac Pro. The earlier ones opposed each other, but 2008, couple 30-pin Sims. Oh wow, I've been looking for one of these for a long time. The ADB Power Key Rebound basically sent the power on signal to the ADB connector on an older Macintosh. I don't remember how these were programmable. It might be that when the machine lost power, it could power itself back on. It's possible that they were programmable on timers, but basically this would send a physical power on switch to one of those computers whenever the user had decided that it should, basically enabling remote power on. Obviously there's no external communication protocol with this, but this is cool. I've always wanted to play with some of these, and had eBay trackers looking for them for years and not seen a single one. Accepts a SATA power from a modern power supply and gives either Molex or a floppy drive power adapter. Oh, another one of these. 72 pin, 32 megabytes here. What do we have here? These almost look like, oh, they're, I think, the type of incidental switch you would find on floppy drives and some other appliances, basically little clicky switches. Useful if this is the exact thing I need to replace on something. This one accepts a Molex adapter to a floppy power adapter. This is actually the floppy power adapter. I'm not sure. This other one's smaller. Not sure what standard this is, but this would usually be for a PC 3.5-inch floppy drive. Looks like a Newton case here and a Newton stylus. Oh wow, a lot more 30-pin Sim. I'm not going to open this all up, but we will test that later. 1 megabyte Sims, quantity 4, 30-pin. It's like a microphone adapter, 3.5-inch. It does have the microphone icon. Orange Micro Firewire to SCSI external power supply. Great. Okay, so that's FR1SX is from Rat Talk Systems. This is actually for a different Firewire to SCSI adapter. Oh, a sticker never put on for a Macintosh Plus. So this would probably go on a 512 upgrade when the motherboard was replaced from the factory to give it the proper indications that it's a Mac Plus. Verilon Ethernet PC card. Unfortunately, if I don't find the dongle also in here, this won't actually do much good, but this would give a 16-bit PC card interface Ethernet. A lot more memory here. Looks like 72-pin and 30-pin mixed. There's a pair of 3420342B, 3420341C. So this is just from a version 3 Mac Plus. Oh, and says as much on the back. These are just Mac Plus ROMs, 3rd revision. More 30-pin Sims here. More 72-pin Sims. 168-pin buffered DIMMs there. More 72-pin Sims. What is this guy? SY6502A. Okay, so it's a 6502 CPU. Apple II are compatible. Ooh, this is, I believe, called a interposer for a slot loading iMac to support the original airport card. These were not necessarily shipped with the iMac, so without one of these, you can pick up an airport card, but it won't install in that slot loading iMac. Power on, power off push button, just for installing in a general electronic purpose. Very nice. TTL 74 LS125, LS32, LS02, LS125, LS74. Great. Useful when those go bad. Another 8-pin serial cable for vintage Macintosh. What are you? Video 7, 9-pin to 15-pin adapter Not sure which direction this is intended to transform, but presumably a video adapter from a 15 pin to a 9 pin or vice versa. Those are both pretty common in the early and mid 80s. Black and white displays, maybe early color displays. And another 3.5 inch, looks like microphone is what's embossed here. Obviously this can be used for audio out as well, but Apple did have a separate sort of sound icon on their intended audio out cables. That's it for the first box. I've got a couple of smaller boxes here too. Phone Valet, interesting. Looks like early 2000s PowerPC telecom software, which I mean probably includes a piece, yeah, this hardware. It would probably take an RJ11 1 or 2 line connection and give you the software interface to basically digitally manage your analog phone line. It's pretty cool. I might try that out at some point. We do still have an analog phone line here. PowerBook G4. I think I'm wrong. This is Cheetah 10.2. All these old icons I haven't seen in a while. I'm often in 10.4 and macOS 9, but I haven't spent a ton of time in 10.2, 10.3 since it was basically current. Nope, 4.5 volt battery. And it's performers and Power Mac from about 5200 to 6500. 20th anniversary Macintosh, stuff like that. Okay, uncut cable for rolling your own floppy drive cables. Early Macintosh, Apple II stuff. Bunch of DE9 female connectors for through-hole mounting, or these are for crimping cables onto. Similar stuff for DB25 there. Make your own Molex connector, looks like. Yep. These have the outer clips on them to snap them into something. General purpose mate and lock connector. Or DE9. Nope, pins in those. I wonder if the pins are back here and you press them in. Maybe not. 50 pin fuzzy crimp-on cables for, again, sort of making your own 50 pin hook loop fastener with adhesive back. Oh, okay, Velcro. BNC connectors to crimp on as well. Not sure if this is floppy drive. Looks a touch wide, but that probably is just floppy drive cable. Second one, full of screws there. More Velcro adhesive. Looks like that adhesive has seen better days. Velcro is still fine, so with our own adhesive, it can still be used. That classic rainbow coloring that you'd see on the cables in the Apple II era. 50 pin SCSI and the end of a floppy diskette cable there. Sorted stuff in here. Rubber standoffs. That's the kind of cable end that you'd find for a power button or a LED or a sound cable in a Macintosh. A couple of those. And pin headers. 90-degree angle, so you could solder into the edge connectors on the board. Various quantities and sizes here. Good stuff if I ever need to repair that type of thing, because making do with what's already on the board isn't always enough. Sometimes a new connector is necessary if the old one is too mangled. Last box here. This is interesting. Molex and a 50 pin wired into, I don't know, that. This seems proprietary of some sort, but it could be a standard that I'm just not familiar with. It's like a drive LED, a sort of bunch of screws, a couple of fuses. Brand new faceplate for a 3.5 inch, like a standard 3.5 inch drive for 8600, 9600, and G3 mini towers. For floppy diskette drives and zip drives, they had custom ones that had only the slot that's shaped as the opening, but this you could install to install any 3.5 inch PC compatible drive there. It's kind of cool. I have a couple of those style machines. A couple of 50 pin SCSI connectors, another one out of the package. Sorted power cord in here. Molex female to female, that's interesting. 4 pin of the type that you'd find directly on a motherboard to a Molex. End of a Molex. Slightly longer end of a Molex. And like similarly, a header you'd find on a motherboard to 2 Molex. And just the same here. This looks like sort of a small cable 10 pin. This might be like the type you'd use for a TV tuner adapter for a late 90s Power Mac. Those usually were one-ended on the machine end, but on a Wings card, you could put one like that. Another one of these in a different bag, but I already saw it earlier. But it's semi-translucent with what looks like a drive slot opening. Not familiar with what that's for. Bunch of screws. Looks like the type of screw you'd find in a 2CI type case. Extra, and it's got drive sled, the type you'd find in mid to late 90s Power Macs, probably as early as the 840AV, the Quadra 800, to I think this same adapter was installed in two different manners in those towers and also in desktop and all-in-ones, and slotted in to the back like 5200, 6200 machines. There we are. A bunch of spare parts mostly, but some interesting gems in there. And certainly those spare parts, they're not particularly exciting maybe, but when I come to a crossroads in a repair, it's really nice just to go over to a drawer and pull something instead of look online, order it, wait a week, come back, bring the project out from wherever I've managed to store it in pieces. So even though a lot of that stuff I can get pretty easily, pretty cheaply, and is readily available, having it readily available in my workshop can make a huge difference to just getting something across the line. So I really appreciate having a stockpile of that stuff. It's not the type of thing I can just run to a store locally in this area and pick up anymore. So I really appreciate, even though it was a favor to my friend to take that off his hands as he's trying to move and get rid of that sort of that dregs of what's taking up space, it's a real favor to me as well, because I do use this type of stuff in repair. And I will certainly have a lot more memory to test and add to my collection. Thanks for watching.